The FBI just removed a Trump hater, somebody who's got some documented animus towards the former president. We're going to hear more about that from Senator Kennedy when he was asking Christopher Wray about that. The FBI director showed up in Congress, asked and answered some questions, and we're going to spend some time talking about it, specifically about this guy right here. You see his photograph. That's Timothy Thibault, and it's Thibault. So some people are saying Thibault or whatever, but he goes by Thibault apparently. And he is no longer at the FBI, was there for a very long time, has apparently resigned. We're going to take a look at that story. This is somebody who has been under the spotlight for quite some time. Chuck Grassley, the senator seen here, he had some comments about this before today. And we're also going to hear what Representative Jim Jordan had to say about this, because Jordan is saying that whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork and they're informing Congress, they're informing other people about the problems within the FBI, and they are trying to address it. But let's start at the top. Who is this guy? Timothy Thibault. We've got a little bit of a nice summary over here from CBS News. You can see Andres Trier posted this August 30th. He says, a top-level FBI agent under fire for the role in the Hunter Biden investigation resigns. Gone. CBS tells us he's a top-level FBI agent. He'd been under fire for his role in investigations about Hunter. Resigned late last week, and here you go, was walked out of the FBI. Get your boxes and get out. Now, I've seen some people saying, well, everybody who resigns, everybody who leaves, even if it's your last day and they throw you a party with cake and, candles or whatever they do there, they say you're still walked out. It's the FBI. They're not just like, okay, well, just show yourself out. Just take whatever you want on the way out. So they say he resigned last week and he was walked out, according to two U.S. officials. But these officials also said that Thibault had reached retirement age. And they added that all those who retire hand over their badge and their gun and they're escorted out of the building. Now, this guy worked at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. We're going to learn a little bit more about that from Christopher Wray. He had recently been removed from his position as an assistant special agent in charge of the FBI Washington field office. Why? Because Christopher Wray got a very nasty letter over from Chuck Grassley, the senator. And if you've been a part of this channel for some time, we've read basically every one of those letters that Chuck Grassley has sent over to the FBI, line by line, because Grassley has been all over this. He says this guy was covering all of the District of Columbia and Northern Virginia. And some of that's going to be important because Senator Kennedy was beating up on Director Wray in Congress peacefully and politically. And he was asking him all sorts of questions about this guy. And Christopher Wray said, gosh, I can't remember. It's a good question. I'll have to check my notes. Thibault came under fire earlier this year from Republicans Grassley. Grassley said that he was engaging in improper conduct in the Hunter investigation. And the probe was being run by the same DOJ, right? There's no special counsel investigating Hunter Biden. It's the same DOJ's office. Merrick Garland, the same guy investigating Trump, is investigating, his office is investigating Hunter. You got to be kidding me. Grassley said in late July, and I've got a clip of this, that highly credible whistleblowers had approached a senior Senate Republican and alleged a widespread effort within the FBI to downplay or discredit negative information about Hunter Biden. And if you missed it, Mark Zuckerberg was on the Joe Rogan show where he made that same point. He said, FBI showed up at my stinking billionaire mansion and they told me, you better turn off the button on those things there, buddy boy. This guy is citing a 2020 FBI intelligence assessment, he says, was used by FBI headquarters team to improperly discredit negative Hunter Biden information as disinformation. He continued, he said, based on allegations that Hunter Biden and anything that was derogatory about him was falsely labeled as disinformation. All this stuff came out in October 2020, 1 month before the election. There was a letter that came out. They say an avenue of derogatory Hunter Biden reporting was ordered closed by a senior FBI agent at the Washington field office. Who could that have been? Who would have said that anything that was derogatory about Hunter, just close it? Don't need to look into it. Don't need to investigate anything. Just get rid of it here. We're just close it out. Well, an earlier letter from Grassley said that that agent was Thibault. the guy who made those orders, the partisan political FBI special agent. Grassley said the allegations provided to me and to my office appear to indicate that there was a scheme in place among certain FBI officials to undermine info about Hunter Biden, falsely suggesting it was disinformation. Grassley said that Thibault was violating federal laws in the letter, saying that whistleblowers have reported that although the FBI and the Justice Department maintaining policies, Thibault and other Justice Department and FBI officials failed to comply with these requirements. Letter also singled out somebody else by the name of Richard Pilger and others. And Grassley said that there are major problems after the office from Chuck Grassley sent a letter. It says here there was a lot of no further comments about any of this. Now we have a hearing that took place between the FBI and Chuck Grassley, as well as Senator Kennedy. We have that queued up here, and I want to play quite a bit of this. This is a 9-minute clip. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but we do have some business to attend to. This is Senator Kennedy asking FBI Director Christopher Wray about Timothy Thibault, the FBI special agent who resigned and apparently was escorted out. Christopher Wray gets asked some pretty pointed questions, and as usual, he answers. He says, I am here, but I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. As usual, that's what they say. And he also says things like, well, gosh, it's hard for me to remember because it's just such a complicated job being the director of the FBI. Here is more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, who is Timothy Thibault?
Mr. Thibault was, for some period of time until relatively recently, what's called an ASAC in our Washington field office.
He was the Assistant Special Agent in charge?
That's what ASAC stands for. There's a whole number of them in the Washington field office. The structure is there's at the head of the office, and then there's SACs, and then the next level down, there's the level that he was at.
And he has or had been with the FBI about 25 years. Is that right?
Well, now you're testing my knowledge a little bit.
Okay.
Doesn't know too much.
He was a powerful guy. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
He was a powerful guy. Is that correct?
What just happened on the audio?
He had no power.
I think every law enforcement agent in the FBI with the responsibilities they're entrusted with has significant power.
Okay. Did he work on the President Trump Russian collusion investigation?
Now here we get a little tricky answer, right? Pretty easy. Now look at Christopher Wray.
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. Not that I'm aware of, but I can't say that with certainty.
Did he or does he work on the FBI investigation of Mr. Hunter Biden?
Oh, good question.
So the investigation that you're referring to, and I have to be a little bit careful because we're talking about an ongoing investigation.
There it is, yeah.
Is being run out of our Baltimore field office, working with the Delaware U.S. Attorney, who's a holdover from the prior administration.
Okay.
So I'm confused, Chris, with your answer. Did he work or does he work on the Hunter Biden investigation?
So he's not going to say.
As I said, the Hunter Biden investigation is being run out of the Baltimore field office.
And Thibault works where? Out of the D.C. field office, or maybe the same office. No answers.
Isn't it true that in September of 2020, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and liked a Washington Post article entitled, quote, "William Barr has gone rogue"?
I have seen descriptions to that effect. I have to be a little bit careful about how far we can go in this conversation because
Why?
of specific ongoing personnel matters.
Oh, okay. So it's ongoing investigation, and then it's ongoing personnel matters, and then if he doesn't have the answer, I don't know. I don't know. So you have to challenge my social media memories there, and then just non-answers on top of that, right? A Baltimore field office, D.C. field office. Hunter Biden is the Delaware office. Has a holdover from the prior administration, which is that guy that I can't remember his name right now, Chris something or other. And then he's moved over to the Baltimore office. So yes or no? No answers. And then ongoing personnel matters. So, just on and on and on.
True that also in September of 2020, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and posted a Washington Post article entitled, quote, "Why the Michael Flynn case still matters."
A similar answer to the one I gave before.
I don't look at everybody's social media. Now, Senator Kennedy is going to continue on with this, right? I'm going to let it play just a little bit because there's really a lot here. Right? It's sort of the point. And Senator Kennedy does such a good job of this. He's sort of like this, just asks these nice questions very just kind of easily and candidly. Do you know about this? No, I don't. He does it like 3 or 4 more times with additional posts just showing you that this guy is a political partisan hack. And he's doing this intentionally. He's doing it, kind of this nice folksy approach as he does. But it's still something that he's just rubbing Christopher Wray's nose in this. This was your agent. Okay, this is what he was doing all over social media. I mean, you're out there talking about social media misinformation and disinformation and dangerous narratives being proffered forward. You've got entire agencies being conducted around or departments being set up around homegrown violent extremists and all this stuff. But now he can't remember the answer to these things. And
isn't it true that in November of 2020, Special Agent Thibault, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the D.C. office, who allegedly worked on the Trump-Russia collusion investigation and the Hunter Biden investigation,
out of D.C.,
retweeted a Lincoln Project tweet that said, quote, "Donald Trump is a psychologically broken, embittered, and deeply unhappy man."
A retweet from the special
Again,
agent.
I've seen descriptions of posts, and I'm really trying to be very careful not to get in the way of any ongoing personnel matters.
Isn't it also true that in January of 2001, in response to Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville's election to the United States Senate,
He just keeps going on.
from Alabama, of course, Special Agent Thibault went on social media and posted, quote, "Thank God for Mississippi, the state motto of Alabama."
Can't sit here and quote chapter and verse on an individual's social media posts.
Don't know. Yeah. Huh. Okay.
Isn't it also true that in June of 2020, Special Agent in charge Thibault, a 25-year veteran of the agency, tweeted to Congresswoman Liz Cheney, quote, "Your dad was a disgrace."
Wow, that's pretty political.
Again, I've seen descriptions to that effect, but I'm going to have to be very careful not to interfere with any kind of ongoing person.
And last month, didn't
one.
Agent Thibault go on media and tweet, quote, "Can we give Kentucky to the Russian Federation?"
Well, that's rude. Very rude.
Again, same answer that I've given before.
All right, so
All right.
you get the gist of this.
Isn't it true that Mr. Thibault, Agent Thibault, and FBI Supervisory Intelligence Analyst Brian Otan covered up derogatory information about Mr. Hunter Biden while working for the FBI?
Well, Again, I want to be very careful not to interfere.
So this is a different person, right? He sort of asks about a different individual, but Christopher Wray then he goes back, and I think we have a clip here from him now saying, this is not indicative of the FBI, right? You're talking about these people left and right here, Timothy Thibault or whatever the other guy's name is. I'm used to seeing a lot of very honorable men and women in the FBI.
It is trouble.
And it is totally...
And it's not about their political beliefs.
Right.
It's not about their political beliefs. It's about that this is a senior employee at the FBI with years of experience going on social media and tweeting this kind of stuff.
At the top.
So I have, since I started in...
Which gives the people the impression that there is bias, whether there is or there isn't.
I feel very strongly,
here it comes,
and I have communicated consistently since I started as director, that our folks need to make sure that they're not just doing the right thing, that they're doing it in the right way, and that they avoid even the appearance of bias or lack of objectivity. And in fact,
gosh, are you serious?
In fact, one of the things I did, which to my knowledge had never been done before at the FBI, was in 2018. I pulled together, and I started at the top, which in my experience, and somebody in law enforcement, it never works that way. I started at the top, and I brought the 250 or so very top people in the FBI from one corner of the globe to the other for a full-day stand-down at Quantico, where the whole focus of the message, and we heard from the Inspector General, we heard from a judge, we heard from the people who enforced the Hatch Act, the whole focus was on the importance of the appearance.
But you wouldn't do something like this.
They really brought 250 people together. They had a little seminar out there. I don't know what they talked about, but they said, even the appearance of impropriety is a problem. You can't do that. And of course, we've covered a lot of the impropriety of the FBI and all of the setup that happened with the Governor Whitmer hoax, the retrial that's taking place or that took place there, right? The litany of FBI problems goes on and on and on. Christopher Wray, he apparently doesn't see it the same way the rest of us do.
This man had been with the FBI for 25 years. He's now on leave. He did this kind of stuff as recently as last month.
Yeah.
Do you know how this looks to the American people?
I will tell you that what you're describing is not representative of the FBI that I see up close every day in this country, where I see patriots working their tails off.
And I
with
agree
tremendous integrity and objectivity.
I agree with that, and have said that to you repeatedly.
Yes.
But you're killing yourselves with this stuff.
Yep.
And this investigation needs to be completed on this gentleman, and the results need to be reported to the American people.
To the American people, he says. And are we going to see any reports or any response? I doubt it. So all that took place quite some time ago. Now, Thibault is gone, right? He's not in there anymore. They walked him out apparently on Friday. Don't know if that was voluntary. Don't know if this is, more sort of rats fleeing the sinking ship. You know what happened with Strzok and Lisa Page and all of these other people, right? When they get over the fire, when their butt is getting warm, they all sort of abandon ship and they go get MSNBC gigs and show up on cable news. But Christopher Wray is sort of detailing, look, I gathered up all of the FBI agents, brought them together. We sang Kumbaya. We, reminded ourselves about what an evil dictator Trump is. And they apparently solved this problem, even though Thibault, up until last month, was, apparently doing the same stuff. He just got sort of shuffled around a little bit. Here is this is Senator Grassley. Senator Grassley from Iowa was on Trey Gowdy's show, and Chuck Grassley tells us about the difficulties that he had, even as a sitting senator, of getting the FBI on the phone, getting Director Wray to answer his calls so that he can ask some questions about special agents who might be compromising all sorts of ethical guarantees that they're supposed to adhere to in this country. Here's Grassley now.
Senator, you have been in the Senate for a long time. You are very well regarded. You are one of my favorite people to bump into. You are not prone to hyperbole or conspiracies. I mean, why would Christopher Wray wait until Thursday? You wrote him a really specific letter with some specific allegations. Has he called you yet and said, listen, Senator, I need to explain this to you? Have you heard from him?
This video clip was from when Grassley originally sent those letters over to Wray. Okay, so this has been bubbling around for a long time. A lot of issues have been, been circling the drain for a long period of time. And hang on one second, I got to swap something here. All right, so just flipped a couple things in the chat. Thank you, K. Bean, for the notice on that. So Chuck Grassley then is now going to give an answer about where his position was after he sent the letter over to Director Wray. He sends the letter, Director Wray, you've got all sorts of problems at the FBI. You've got this guy, Timothy Thibault, who's a maniac. He's out there posting all sorts of stuff all over the internet, and he's causing us to doubt your integrity. What do you have to say about that? And so Trey Gowdy is asking him specifically, have you heard from Wray?
I waited for 6 or maybe longer than that months to have a telephone conversation with Wray. And what finally got me that telephone conversation was this. When Thibault's information, that's that special agent, when his information came to me, I issued a press release and then finally got a phone call with Wray. But before I got that phone call, so this is a small compliment to Wray that maybe he wants to do the right thing, and that is that he moved Thibault out of that position of deciding what investigations go ahead and which ones are stopped. Now, where he's reassigned and what his responsibilities are, I don't know, but presumably he's being investigated for some violation of the Hatch Act. But we need more than that. We need a concrete program by Wray, and we need that Thursday when he appears before our committee, that he's going to make sure that none of this political bias ever happens again.
Yeah, obviously that didn't happen. Christopher Wray sort of went and even showed up in front of the Senate. Remember, he was sitting there and he said, actually, I'm done answering questions. I've got to go. I've got a plane to catch. And Grassley said, well, it's like 1 o'clock. We just had lunch. We've got the whole afternoon. What do you mean you're hitting an airplane? And he's like, well, I got to go and I'm really busy. So, and they said, okay, well, I guess you run the FBI. I mean, we're just senators here on, an oversight committee. What the hell do we have to do with anything here in this government? Thanks for your time, Christopher Wray. And he just got on an airplane, I guess, went to the beach or something. So right now, something interesting that Grassley said is he said, Wray did move him, right? He did sort of move him around on another location. He kind of said, okay, kind of like Jill Biden moved Joe Biden yesterday. Just kind of picked him up and moved him over here. And it was, an interesting, is that an admission of guilt? Is that some sort of acknowledgement that, this guy is big trouble? Have you seen Tim's social media account? Holy crap, that guy went on a bender last night. Somebody better tell him to calm down. And, so anyways, Wray kicks the can down the road for many, many months, shows up in front of Congress. I got to go on vacation. Even if you're Senator Grassley, you still can't get him to answer your questions. And so it just shows you sort of the free-for-all nature of what really is happening at the FBI. It's kind of amazing. So we also have Jim Jordan. Chuck Grassley is not the only senator who's getting whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork to address what is going on in the FBI. We have Jim Jordan here. Of course, he is in the House of Representatives, and he was on Sean Hannity's show, and Sean says, listen, we know there are problems at the FBI and all this stuff keeps bubbling up to the top. When you guys get in charge, let's say if you do fast forward a couple months, Republicans are in charge, you win the November elections, you take over power in January, what happens? You guys have whistleblowers. We've heard from Grassley. He said these people are all over the place. What do you have to say about this since he's in the Senate and you're in the House? If the Senate doesn't flip towards the Republicans, well, it may be up to you, Jim Jordan. And what are you going to do about this? Do you have whistleblowers? Do you have people that you're going to use in your inquiries, in your investigation into the FBI?
Correct. We've had more than that. And you were right when Senator Grassley said there's political influence at the FBI and it's all about politics. That is certainly the case because all these whistleblowers come to us and talk about the political pressure they're under. And now we see that it may be in the Inspector General's office. By statute, the Inspector General is supposed to provide independent oversight of the Justice Department. Well, how can you do that if you're participating in an investigation?
Okay, let me brief this just a little bit before we jump into the rest of his comment. He segues a little bit. Sean says, do you have whistleblowers? And he says, yeah, we've got a lot of people. And when we're in charge, there's going to be all sorts of problems. But he says, in addition to that, we are running into a new set of problems when it comes to investigating the FBI. Why? He's going to tell us about the OIG, the Office of the Inspector General. Supposed to be an independent agency that is separate and apart from the actual FBI that does the investigations of the FBI, sort of an oversight committee. You hear about these all the time, OIGs for all the various agencies that exist out there, right? They're all sort of supposed to be overseen by somebody, and they want to delegate that outside of the agency so that they don't investigate themselves and found that they did nothing wrong, which happens regularly. So he's going to tell us about that. Now, he's going to say what happens when we go over to the FBI or we want to investigate them and we go to that OIG. We go to that third party entity, and we say, we need an inquiry done. He's going to tell us about the conflation between the two, the commingling between the FBI and the OIG to such an extent that you can't even go to this third party agency in order to get oversight. Here he is.
Understand what happened here. The FBI came to the Inspector General and said, we're going to take the phone of a sitting member of Congress.
One more brief. Scott Perry was the representative we covered here on this channel at length. He was on an airplane or heading to an airport to get on an airplane when the FBI seized his cell phone, took it away from him the day after Trump got his home raided. This is what he's talking about. He's saying, we went to the OIG to get information about this, and we learned that they are commingling with the FBI, the very entity that they are supposed to be overseeing.
We're going to take his phone one day after we have raided President Trump's home, and we're going to do it while Congressman Perry is on vacation with his family. The Inspector General should have said to them, are you freaking out of your mind? This has got all kinds of constitutional concerns. You should not do it. But if you do, we will not participate. But instead, he said, go ahead and do it, and we'll image the phone. That is frightening because they're supposed to be providing the independent oversight of the Justice Department. So, yeah, there's politics at the DOJ. There's certainly politics at the FBI, as evidenced by all the whistleblowers, almost 20 that have come to the three respective offices. But now we have to have concerns about the Inspector General as well.
So, in other words, what are you supposed to do about all this? Okay, Chuck Grassley, Jim Jordan, they can have whistleblowers coming out the eyeballs for all they care. What can they do about it if the OIG, which is the body that's set up and supposed to investigate these types of claims, is also basically in cahoots with the FBI? You know, they'd have to, I don't know, maybe defund the FBI. I don't know, as Congress, right? They'd have to pass some legislation to make some changes and stop relying on the OIG. Well, we just send it over to them and they'll investigate it. So we'll see what the Republicans do. If every single thing is compromised, including the agencies that investigate the agencies, what are you supposed to do about it? So the FBI makes some progress in removing what appears to be a bona fide Trump hater from their ranks, which is incredible news.